You guys might remember, but a month ago, Nimnim and I did a collaboration at the ARG Invitational this past summer. It was really fun, and basically what we did is we tried to predict what Konami would do on what we then thought would be the August ban list, but what we now know is the September ban list, and I thought it would be kind of funny to go back and look at what we predicted and see how close it was. Just remembering back to it, I think I probably got about half of them correct, maybe. We'll have to take a look though, and I'm going to kind of keep track of how many each of us got correct, how many each of us got wrong, so we can kind of compare which one of us was better at predicting what would happen on this ban list. And I do want to mention that that was a prediction video, not a wish list video. I mentioned that when we recorded it, but what that means is that we were talking about hits that we thought Konami would or wouldn't do. We weren't saying what we actually would like to see happen to the game. Anyway, I'll play some clips from each of the sections of that video, and then I'll respond to if we are right or wrong. The first card is Firewall Dragon. I already have mine.
I got mine ready too. Oh, you think they're gonna ban it? I know. All right.
Limited?
Are we keeping it with what Konami's gonna do? Because
okay, hear me out. Everyone keeps saying Firewall Dragon's the ace monster. However, when I talked about Firewall Dragon being the ace monster on my reviewing ace monsters video, everyone was like, no, he's okay. So I don't. You haven't watched the anime. I haven't watched the anime. No. But people said, all the commenters said, he only summons Firewall twice, and both times he used it to make a decode talker. Looking back on this video, I can imagine why I thought Firewall Dragon was going to be hit, but what I think is funny about looking back at this is that on this recent ban list, Konami actually ended up doing 4 separate hits just to keep Firewall Dragon in the game. So not only was I wrong in that they would not, or I thought they were going to ban it and they ended up not doing that, not only was I wrong about that just as a single card option, they also went so far, like just so far out of their way, hitting things like A Assault Core and Samsara Lotus just to make sure Firewall Dragon was still in the game, which I think is pretty crazy. One interesting note based on what I talked about there about ace monsters, Konami just revealed a couple days ago, I know it was on Cybernight's channel if you guys saw that, but they put out a bunch of alternate artworks for all the ace monsters, and they actually put Decode Talker on there, not Firewall Dragon, which I found pretty interesting. The next card is Maxi, which is currently at Zippo in the TCG. What do we think Konami will do with it? Are you ready to flip it over?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we're both.
Okay, so what's interesting is that I think the reason Firewall can stay at 1 in the OCG and be fine is because they have 3 Maxi. I don't know if you guys know that. Of all the cards on this list in particular, I think for both Nimnim and myself, Maxi was one of the most polarizing options as far as what we wanted versus what Konami wants to do. And I think both of us, I mean, we were correct. Konami's going to keep the card banned in the TCG, but if you watch that video, one of the things that we talk about is that in the OCG, the card is at 3 copies per deck, and you see a very different metagame there. It's very control heavy. You have Sky Strikers and Altergeist as the main strategies, whereas in the TCG you mainly see Gokis, which is like the big special summon heavy deck. I don't know if Maxi being at 0 in the TCG is directly influencing that, like the only influence, but it definitely is a factor, and I think in the future Maxi eventually will come off the ban list, although it didn't happen this time around. The next card we have is Trickster Reincarnation. All right. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I didn't put this one in my ban list wish list because I actually don't think this card is that big a deal. I think the field spell and Cantina and stuff are more important. However, Reincarnation is super annoying to play against, super frustrating to play against, and also it's at 1 in the OCG, which isn't like the greatest reasoning for it being at 1 here. I think it's just like the most Konami thing to do though. I truly do believe what I said in that video, and that I think Trickster Reincarnation to 1, it was probably the most Konami decision that could have been made. However, that didn't happen, and actually just in general, Trickster has got off very lightly. I think what ended up happening was that Konami didn't really want to hit the Trickstar cards themselves. None of them got hit on the ban list, but they wanted to hit the cards that made it a top tier deck. They hit Terraforming and Scapegoat, which we'll get to in a second, and they also hit the Sky Striker engine, which is really important because if you remember pre-Sky Striker Trickstars, they were kind of just a good rogue deck. They weren't, I mean, they were like topping events, but they weren't topping like every single event, and they definitely weren't the most represented deck in the top cut. So I think that if we look back and say, okay, how good really were Trickstars before Sky Strikers, they weren't that great. So I think Konami Konami let them off pretty lightly, and I am a little surprised that Trickster Reincarnation wasn't hit, because I still think it is a very annoying card to play against. However, I once again would not be surprised if Trickster Reincarnation in the future, if Trickstars remain a top strategy, end up getting hit on the Forbidden and Limited list. The next card is
Nightmare Goblin. Ready?
Yeah. Unlimited. Yeah, they both say unlimited.
Yep.
I think this card should be banned. I actually think that when you go through almost all the crazy link combos, like, yeah, Firewall's in there, but like they get there with the Nightmare Goblin. Thank you, announcer. They get there with the Nightmare Goblin, like the Goki board, Nightmare Goblin. The Firewall loop in Skystriker Trickstars, Nightmare Goblin. It's always Nightmare Goblin. However, it's so like, that just doesn't seem like something Konami would do. I know it seems crazy now that we know Nightmare Goblin is banned and did end up getting banned on the September ban list, but back then people did not think that was going to be the card that got hit. However, I would like to point out that in that clip I mentioned I thought Nightmare Goblin was the correct hit to Goki. Now at the time of recording this, it is before the 200th YCS, so I don't know the results of it. I think Gokis are still going to be a very powerful deck and probably take up a large portion of the top cut. However, I think the Nightmare Goblin hit definitely makes the deck a lot more fragile. Now when they make their big board, even though their cards can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, they can be targeted, so it really helps you with cards like Afterburner breaking the board, even cards like Altergeist Millseek breaking the board. I think that targeting protection, as long as they don't have, I think as long as they hit Phoenix or Goblin, there was some way to break the board now, because you either need to be allowed to target the monsters or allowed to destroy them. Konami just had to pick which one. Obviously, though, Phoenix goes in so many other decks, they didn't really want to hit it, but Goblin seemed like the right choice. We'll have to see what happens at the YCS.
Next one is Divine Phoenix Blade.
All right, I'm ready.
Oh yeah?
Yep. You really
okay,
think that
hear me
card's
out,
gonna
hear
get
me out.
banned?
Okay, hear me out. I don't think this card should be banned. And I know that Konami just reprinted it in the OTS pack. Man, it just seems like, of all the Konami things to do, it seems like the thing that they like look at the column, they're like, okay, Goblin is really good. Firewall is clearly broken. Gokis are just like too good. Isolde, way too powerful. And they're like, but you know what? Let's just ban the Equip spell. I know that my comment there probably seemed pretty ridiculous, but actually I was correct in some way, but not so much with Divine Sword Phoenix Blade. But what I mentioned earlier about how Konami hit 4 cards instead of hitting Firewall Dragon, including some really random hits, that's basically what I was implying with this Divine Sword comment, saying that it was a Konami thing to do. Very often, Konami hits the random cards of a strategy instead of hitting the main problem. So even though it didn't happen in the case of Divine Sword Phoenix Blade like I thought it would, they did end up doing that with other cards like A Assault Core and Samsira Lotus.
Engage. Nice.
Sky Striker
Engage. What's going to be that?
Hear me out. I don't even have a... Oh. Nice. Okay, ready?
Yep. Okay, both on the same page, semi-limit.
Yeah. This seems... Konami just historically has always hit searcher cards to 2. Think of like Necroz, Brionic, think of like Rhoda, just all sorts of searcher cards. They just hit the consistency of decks. I don't think it's that unreasonable to think that they would do that with Engage. Yeah, I mean, not much else to say with this one. I really do think that in the case of Engage, it's a very similar situation to Necroz of Brionic. So I'm looking back on it a little surprised that card is still at 3 copies per deck, even though they did the change that I requested they do on my wish list, which was limiting Hornet Drones. I guess we can jump to the Hornet Drones.
Yeah, let's jump to
what do we think you're doing with that? Because
Okay, there we go, okay.
See, that makes sense. I've talked about this before. I think Hornet Drones should go to 1. That was on my wish list. The reason being, the reason Engage is so powerful is because it can search Hornet Drones. Like, most people are playing like 7 Sky Striker cards, 3 Hornet Drones, 3 Engage, and like 1 Afterburners, maybe 1 extra Widowmaker. So if you hit the Hornet Drones, suddenly you have to play all these. I mean, they're not like Garnets, but when you're going first there, like, you don't actually want, like, Widowmaker, Afterburner, and Jamie Waves aren't starter cards. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what Konami did. I think it's for the exact reason that I just said in that video. Once again, I'm filming this before the 200th YCS, so it's a little hard to to tell how impactful that change will be, but likely what I think will happen is we will not see the Sky Striker engine splashed in Goki just ever. It's pretty much never going to be splashed into a combo deck that wants to go first. It might still see play in Trickster as an engine, just playing all those garnets, but we'll have to see. But I really do think that Hornet Drones was the correct hit, and props to Konami for actually pulling the trigger on that particular limitation.
Ash Blossom enjoys spring.
All right. The final one, the one that everyone complains about.
All right, I'm ready. Okay, you said semi-limit, yeah.
Yeah, I think, once again, Maxi went to 2 before it went to 1, before it got banned. I think a lot of people complain about Ash Blossom. I think that it's already, I'm not using it so much as that 2 in the OCG, as in, like, that's why it'll be hit. But as someone that played in the World Celebration format, felt so much better. Because this was filmed right as the ARG Invitational was ending, I didn't quite realize that a lot of people didn't play Ash Blossom in their decks for that event. A lot of people, even if they weren't main decking it, some people just didn't even side deck it at all. Like Jesse Cotton didn't play it in his main or side deck, and a lot of people figured out that Ash Blossom just isn't as effective against Goki as many of the other hand traps. So what I maybe didn't see when I made this video is that Ash Blossom isn't as popular as a lot of people think it is. Therefore, should it be hit? And the answer, for now at least, seems to be no.
What about Scapegoat?
Oh, Scapegoat.
Oh, I gotta do the thing here.
Yeah. My opinion on this actually changed pretty heavily. Oh wait, we're doing what Konami? Okay.
What would Konami do?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to hear your opinion too, though. But oh, you said semi-limit.
No way Konami's gonna just limit.
You don't think they'd bring it back to 1?
Konami, bring it back to 1.
It was at 1.
Scapegoat?
Scapegoat, yeah.
It's at 3 right now.
Now it is, but it was at 1 back in the day.
Of the 9 guesses, Nim Nim got 5 of them correct, which is actually insane. I only got 3 of them correct, which means that I clearly do not understand how Konami actually works for these ban lists. I think this video idea was really fun. I think in the future I would love to do it again. A lot of people do these prediction lists, but don't actually go back and look at them once the new ban list comes out. It's kind of old news by that point, but I think this was fun. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comment section below. Maybe we'll do it the next time that a ban list is hopefully right around the corner. Although this past time, obviously, it ended up taking a lot longer than we actually thought. I do think that in the next ban list, here I go again, but I think in the next ban list, many of the suggestions that I actually talked about in this video where I was wrong, I think they very likely, if the format stays pretty much the same, they could actually end up happening on the next Forbidden Limited list. I think particularly Ash Blossom to 2 and stuff like that is a pretty big deal, and I think will probably happen later on down the line. Anyway though, let me know what you guys think about this video. Let me know any questions, comments, or concerns. This will go up on the Sunday of the 200th YCS, I believe, so if you're there and you're somehow watching this video, feel free to come up to me. We can take some pictures, sign some cards, do all that fun stuff. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.